Hello, this is James Robert Deal. You're listening to the JRD News. That's with a Z on the end. Today is July the 15th, 2018. And that song in the background is one I wrote. Follow your truth wherever it leads you, and do not fear the truth you may find. So, this evening I'm going to give you an overview of my platform. And I invite you to go to jamesrobertdeal.org/platform and follow along. I also invite you to send emails to me, james@jamesdeal.com. I am not set up with Facebook, or I don't take live calls. But if you send me an email right now, I'll try to reply. And I'll also give you some gardening tips, and I will also give you some real estate tips, because in real life I'm a real estate broker and a real estate attorney, and I unashamedly
follow your truth, she would say, wherever it leads you, and do not fear the truth you may find. I hope
I'm going to put that in the background, and I'll play that song again in full at the end of the broadcast. It's one of my favorite. So, first of all, interesting email came in from Jody Stulik. Hi, my name is Jody, and I'm deciding my choice for senator. Responsive communication is of top priority to me. I love what you said in your candidate statement. Well, that's an indication that the candidate statements have been mailed out. That's good. Ahead of time. How do you feel about fiber internet all over the country to help transit families? I think we should have fiber all over the country, just like Finland does. It'd be the cheapest and best solution. It'd be the one that would irradiate us the least. And we have no totals for all the irradiation we're getting from all the many, many sources. And that's just recklessness, when it's already been declared to be a carcinogen. What is your stance on tiny house communities and loosening RV regulations in the state? Until there are enough houses for people to live in, we should definitely loosen the regulations on RVs, because they are habitations and they keep people dry and warm and safe. So those are prerequisites to people getting their lives together. So we shouldn't harass people who live in their cars. We've just underinvested in our country. We give tax cuts to the super rich, and then we don't help out our brothers and sisters. The prophet said, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Now, when he said that, I don't think he said that this rule applies only to individuals. I think if you had asked him, he would have said, yes, do unto others also applies to businesses. Yes, and it also applies to governments, and I say the same thing. So the government should do unto others the way we would like to be done to. I mean, you're rich. That's one of the privileges that you can enjoy in the United States. Well, would you like to be in abject poverty and not have a dry, warm place to sleep at night? No. Well, let's get these people into warm, dry places. So about tiny houses, yeah, I think tiny houses are fine. I think that building codes and regulations should be relaxed. And I think the tiny houses are mainly on wheels. But I also am very much in favor of building high and leaving the single-family neighborhoods alone, but along major thoroughfares, go 20 or 30 stories high and build apartments of all different sizes, 200 square feet for a singleton, 3, 4, 500 for all different size families, and get people housed, and create a Washington State bank. Every state should have its own bank. You can create money because people will deposit their money there. There would be money to lend out. You could lend it out to safe projects such as building light rail for a whole lot less if the state of Washington financed those bonds. And it would be a better return for the Washington State Retirement Fund. I believe that Social Security and the Washington State Retirement Funds, all of these should be run like businesses, and the Washington Retirement Fund has been and keeps growing and growing. And I think that the same thing should be done to Social Security. The investments should not all be in T-bills. They should be diversified. And there are many other safe investments. We should invest in the T-bills of other countries. We should invest in index funds. So the Dow Jones average, or the high-tech average, or the small startup average. And so we also need a tax mechanism whereby the Fed would say, this economy is getting overheated, and we got a choice. We can raise interest rates, or we could raise taxes. And we recommend that we raise taxes on everybody in the top 15 or top 10% to slow down the economy, so we won't have to raise interest rates, and then submit that as a proposal to Congress. So it would give us another handle on our economy. Also, when there is a recession, taxes should go up, up, up on those who are being successful during those years where others are being unsuccessful. They're the only ones who can afford to pay more, and we have to keep basic services going. We have police, and we have fire, and we have teachers, and we don't want to be laying off necessary support staffs at a time when people need more support. So let's get to the platform. You can go to jamesrobertdeal.org/platform and read about James. There are links there. I'm president of the fluorideclassaction.com, and I'm president of the Coalition Against Smart Meters and 5G, which is found at jamesrobertdeal.org/smart-meters, smart-meters. I'm an amateur musician and amateur composer, as you can tell, with emphasis upon the amateur. But I think I come up with some really good tunes sometimes, and a happy husband. So, first thing, everybody's going to love this. Republicans and Democrats and others, eliminate traffic congestion. It would be so easy and so inexpensive and could be done so quickly, and it's so amazing that we're so traditional that we haven't done it. And that is to connect together our disconnected system so that we can get comprehensive transportation from your doorstep to your ultimate destination all the way, without taking long hikes to bus stops, without having to figure out transfers. And the vans would pick you up and take you to the park and ride or to the grocery store, so you wouldn't have to own a car. So this whole system would be designed for people who choose not to drive or don't own cars. That's the people who need it the most, not people who drive to get to it. And once you have an alternative way to get people to the transit, then you can start charging for parking at the park and ride, and charge more to park in the park and ride than the charge would be to ride the vans to get to the park and ride. That would encourage everybody. Let's start another song. You'll have to send me an email and tell me if the music in the background is a distraction. The volume levels on these songs are pretty low. So let's proceed with the questions. She asks about How would you fight to implement the legalization of all recreational drugs? Well, first you have to be brave enough to suggest it as a solution. When everything else fails, try something else. And legalization of marijuana has proven to be okay, and taken a lot of silly work away from the police so they can focus on real crimes. And the same thing should be done with most other drugs. I would say, except those drugs which are actually physically poisonous in a relatively short term. But all the other drugs, if people want to knock themselves out, then let them, and the quality would be assured, and the price would be good, and right next door, for no charge whatsoever, there would be a clinic to help people get clean. And you couple that together with small apartments, 20 stories high, along major thoroughfares, give them a place to live, and help them to find jobs, and take a third of whatever they make as their rent, and they'll start supporting the project, and start state banks to create this money. And let's proceed. So do you think alternative energy should be a priority focus for funding and innovation over the next 20 years? Well, yes. And in my song, what I say is, stop drilling now. The future is green. Be a big green energy company. Hey, ExxonMobil, look up, not down, to solar and wind and wave. Stop drilling now. The future is green. Be a big green energy company. Hey, Atlantic Richfield, stop your fracking ways. Your methane is even worse than your CO2. Stop contaminating the water. Stop poisoning the air. Be a big green energy company.
For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. Amen.
I never have liked any of the versions of the Lord's Prayer, and so I decided to write my own and stick in an extra line, which I think was probably accidentally dropped out. Give us this day our daily bread, as we share with those in need. And Jesus' brother was James, and you go read the book of James, which really probably was written by James, and that's what James would have said. And in the book of James, there's a rebuke against an interpretation, because some people were saying, lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. And the Pope recently has said, that's really not what was being said. That's a bad translation. A more better translation would be, and may we not be tested, but if we are, may we survive the test. So that's my reinterpretation of the Lord's Prayer. There are 3 versions of it. There are 2 in the New Testament, and then there's the one in the Didache. And they're all different. So then I had an email from Catherine Lewandowski. So Catherine, I intend to re-record those songs. So she says, I'm the secretary. So I sent out an email to the Green Party asking if they would endorse me. And it's rather late for them to be doing that. And one of them responded and said, I'm the secretary of Snohomish County Green Party. I'm curious what your activity level has been with the party. I've never seen you at one of our meetings. I don't recognize your name. Thanks for your time. And, my answer is that 2 years ago I applied with the Green Party for their endorsement when I was running for governor. And I didn't get it. And I think it was because the people in the leadership did not necessarily agree with what I had to say about fluoridation and the over-vaccination issue. And maybe, I don't know, maybe Jill Stein is pro the CDC vaccine list, the full-on. So anyway, I was too busy to apply with the Green Party, so I thought I'd just give it a try, or at least ask them to do the Twitter and Facebook thing and try to help me get some traction, because I'm running a low-budget campaign, and also send people links to jamesrobertdeal.org/platform and jamesrobertdeal.org/radio. Sunday nights at 8 o'clock, maybe more frequently if there's demand. So back to the platform. Salmon recovery. We have determined that fluoride sickens and kills salmon. We have determined that Roundup sickens and kills salmon. Then, when you go to golf courses, virtually all of them pour chemicals on the golf course, and when you read the labels, it says kills fish. So, on the one hand, we're killing fish, and on the other hand, we're saying we're trying to help the salmon recover. This is what I call a profitable fraud, based upon misunderstanding, people who have a cash flow selling these poisons. They figured out how to make something that would kill something, and they decided to spray it all over everywhere. And if I were in a leadership position, I would favor ours becoming an organic nation as much as possible. Of course, with reasonable transition. Because right now, organic food is more expensive. But with proper assistance to the farmers, education in how to grow organically, organic farms can produce much more heavily. And now we've got hydroponics coming on. And while it doesn't meet the test of organic, it can still be really clean. And if you add the minerals that are found in the soil and the bugs and the microbes that are found in the soil, well, it seems to me it's pretty similar. You could liquefy the soil and pump it through. And I think that maybe that should be a class of organic. But we're poisoning ourselves, folks. And I'm totally 100% in favor of creating a Buffalo Commons, a corridor, or many corridors connecting the national parks, the national forests, the Native American tribes, the First Nations tribes. Have it stretch up into Canada. And the people who live in those corridors can continue to live there, but the federal government would help them to fence out the big beasts, the grizzly bears, the hordes of buffalo that in 100 years would be running through these corridors. And people would come from around the world to see these buffalo stampedes and to see the elk and the antelope and the cougars. So, if you're green, why not go all the way? Why not have a vision of a future that's better? You know, they say you can't predict the future, but I think that you can. And that is by setting goals and ticking off all the steps that need to be taken in order to get there, and then working on it in a consistent fashion. In that sense, you can predict the future by working towards the future you want to achieve. And the way to do that is to discuss it, to identify it, and not take the approach that it's going to take a long time, so let's not try, which is what effectively Hillary was saying about Medicare for all. And moderation is good in some things, and we should be careful about everything we do, but we could and should become an organic nation or a near organic nation and all be healthier, and then our food would sell around the world for the best prices, building fiber optic network. Now, I keep getting emails about that one. And that's a much better alternative than smart meters or 5G. Because through a fiber optic connection, you could have a small, inexpensive, free program on your computer which would send the signal every month back to the electric company saying, this is how much electricity I used. There are programs on Amazon already for that. So we don't need smart meters broadcasting 190,000 times a day in order to get the data from homes to the utility company. So this is a fraud, a public fraud, and this all going to have to be undone, and the analog meters are going to have to be put back in because they're grounded, because they're have a robust surge protection system, spark gap, and they don't produce stray current, whereas the smart meters are not grounded. The surge protection is totally insufficient, and they produce a lot of stray current. A certain proportion of the population is sickened by them and can perceive that these people are the canaries in the cage. They're the ones, they get sick first. They should be a warning to us instead of talking about them as if they're malingering. They're not malingering because eventually all of us are going to get that way, and it's going to make us sick. And the overdose of microwave radiation is the next tobacco. It is the next cigarettes. It's going to take 10 years before you start seeing hordes of people with brain cancer and heart cancer. Those are the two most common kinds. And also cancer in the breast, where people get too close. And all of the wireless companies are going to be liable because they showed advertisements with people with the cell phone up against their head. And they show pictures of people watching TV with cell phones just 10 inches from their face. So they're getting a big whopping dose then. And you can take this dose occasionally, or if you keep it at a distance. But every time, there's a cumulative amount that your body can take over a lifetime. When you get to the LD50 and half the population has cancer. Now, what about profitable frauds? What's the mechanism? How is it possible that a profitable lie can be so successful? Like Roundup, which is a total fraud and even unnecessary, because now we have robots that are smart enough they can identify weeds and just chop them up into little pieces. So it's Baker or some aspirin company just bought Roundup. Boy, this sure made a stupid move, because now we can mechanically remove the weeds. Roundup is unnecessary. And it kills salmon. And it gives us a bad stomach. And there's Roundup in your bread, unless it's organic. There's Roundup in anything that's Coca-Cola, that's got any soy product, such as these corn sweeteners. You're eating and you're drinking Roundup. So quit eating and drinking Roundup. School gardens. Schools usually have lots of empty land where there should be gardens done jointly by the community and by the students. Everybody would learn a lot. We'd have a lot of free food for people who need vegetables. You go to the food bank, and the stuff they have there to give away is mostly dairy and eggs and milk and meat and bread and grains and noodles and all those things that are okay in small quantities. But we need to eat lots of vegetables. If you want to be healthy, you need to eat lots of vegetables. So we need to have places where we can grow vegetables, more community gardens. You could in some way encourage this or teach it to people. If I were struck by lightning and elected to U.S. Senate, part of my role would be to educate people about good government and good policy, and to preach certain wonderful things like organic school community gardens. Okay, next subject is one that my old buddy Tom said, James, don't raise that. They're going to think you're a conspiracy theorist. And that is the white skies. Most people don't look up. Most people kind of ignore the clouds. But I don't. I always look up. And I see planes flying over, and I get out my binoculars, and it's like they've blown a head gasket. And there's smoke. Mountains of smoke pouring out of the back end, and then it spreads out and covers the whole sky. And it crisscrosses the sky. And I think, what is going on? I mean, some days are blue. And there's regular traffic on those days. So the regular traffic is not the culprit that is belching out all this smoke. So it has to be something different. And it is something different, although it is covert action in plain view. NASA admits that they're spraying different things, but there's never been any hearings or any laws telling us what this is and approving it, and experts say that it is aluminum and barium, which are not good to inhale. So I would get to the bottom of that. I don't know what it is, but it looks suspicious to me, and there's lots of videos and stills that I've taken of planes flying from McCord to Whidbey Island, and in all different directions, spraying out this strange stuff. So I'm not afraid to take on these issues that have been categorized as conspiracy theory, because first you start with the theory and then you validate it. So a conspiracy theory is, there are conspiracy theories which remain theories, and some of them are cockeyed, like the flat earth people. But then there's others that there's some evidence for. And then there's some conspiracy theories are proven, so they become conspiracy proven theory facts, or something like that. And the white skies, the covert action in plain view, the fluoridation, which is putting toxic waste in your drinking water. It adds 3 trillion atoms of lead to every liter of Seattle, Everett, Tacoma drinking water. And that wouldn't be there at all if you didn't put in the fluoride, because the fluoride comes as a bonus. The lead comes as a bonus with the fluoride. Well, it's a cash flow thing, because if fluoridation of drinking water is stopped, that will raise questions about, what about fluoride toothpaste? Well, it's a big money maker for Procter & Gamble. Crest, starting in the 1950s. Fluoride. Of course, you swallow some of it, especially if you're a child, and whatever stays on your teeth you eventually swallow, and you absorb it through your gums. It's a fraud. Using fluoride in the dental office, you should consume as little fluoride as possible in your life, because there's only so much your bones can take before your bones get brittle, and you have a miserable old age. That's what fluoride does to people over the long term. So, lowering the voting age. I really think we should lower the voting age to 17. Teenagers know so much more than we knew when we were 17. There are many other countries that allow 16 and 17-year-old people to vote, and I favor lowering the voting age to 17. We want to get the input from the seniors. They're still in school. They can speak for the students. We need to hear directly from the students. We need to quit decapitalizing our country. That's bad capitalism. I'm in favor of private enterprise, provided that it is regulated by a code of ethics and laws, and that it's clear that corporations are not persons in the sense that human beings are, and they have fewer rights. So our tax and economy system is a little bit under designed for the task at hand. We need to run a deficit to stimulate the economy. But then when the economy is roaring, we need to produce a surplus. And where do you get the surplus? You get the surplus from the rich people. And you make them pay more during times when everybody's making a ton of money. The middle class can't afford to pay more, and the poor people can't afford to pay more. The super rich can pay more and should. And this is another way that we could slow down the economy when it got going too fast. So, and we need extra money because we need to upgrade our technology, our bridges, if we got hit by a solar coronal event, our electrical system would be fried, and we would return to the 1800s. So, we're taking a big risk. Now, I also believe in housing the homeless. Like I said, tall, 20-story buildings of all different sizes of apartments, not contingent upon getting clean. Protecting children. Child prostitution is a form of slavery and is rampant. We got to do more to protect children. We got to do more to protect single mothers. Life is really hard for single mothers. We need to support them so they can raise the next generation. And one of the things that I would really stress and encourage, and maybe give a tax break for, is to encourage older families that have plenty of money to adopt. And not just adopt the child, but adopt the mother and the child. And keep that family unit together as child and sort of grandchild. Because if you really want to reduce the number of abortions, that is one thing that really will do it. Now, I'm in favor of reducing the number of abortions. I'm in favor of reducing people getting pregnant when they don't intend to get pregnant. I'm in favor of education about contraception. I'm in favor of being frank about things that are human nature. Why do 16-year-old girls get pregnant? It's because it's an instinct. And you really need to help. The boys need to take some responsibility. So I would use my position to explain it to boys. It's your responsibility to know when she ovulates. It's your responsibility to wear a rubber. And it's your responsibility never to have sex with a girl when she's ovulating. And use double backup contraceptives, rubber and foam. Make sure that you're not going to get her pregnant. Take responsibility because she's in heat. She wants to get pregnant. And she loves you. Okay. You know, I've always found that when a conversation at a party stalls, it always helps to talk about sex. It's time for a song and a break. This song is... Oh, I'll play Follow Your Truth. I just love this song. I recorded it using Digital Performer. And so that's why the production values are a little better than all my other songs, which I just play the piano and have the microphone all at the same time, which is a little bit tricky. So this is 9 minutes and 35 seconds. So go get a sandwich.
I hope there is a God above. I pray there is no devil. I hope there is a heaven. I pray there is no hell. Some may be deserving of punishment infernal. May they be punished no more and no less. Some may be deserving of retirement in heaven. If I am so lucky, my hope is to play the big pipe organ, to play the big pipe organ. Greenland will melt, Antarctica too. Oceans will rise, our cities will be undersea attractions. A comet will fall into Atlantic, tsunami cross Pacific, will overtop the coastal nukes. Plutonium catch fire and burn. Plutonium catch fire and burn. Once alive, those nukes will burn for 1,000 years. We will live underground, come out only in hazmat. The sun in solar maximum will send us a mass ejection. Electronics will be toasted and we will return to the 1800s. Life is a tragedy, said an ancient sage. A tragedy to those who feel, but a comedy to those who think. So I've thought, and I've thought about it often, about taking my own life. The thing that has kept me going is knowing I'll be dead soon enough. I was sitting by her side when my mother died at 90. Dying won't be so bad, she said. In heaven I can smoke if I want. Follow your truth, she would say, wherever it leads you, and do not fear the truth you may find. I hope there is a God above. I pray there is no devil. I hope there is a heaven I pray. There is no hell, I pray there is no hell. Unlikely, but such things have happened before. Unlikely things which have happened before will eventually happen again. People often ask me why my verses seldom rhyme. I never claim to be a poet, I'm only a drummer boy. I'm only a drummer boy. You say it's unlikely, but such things have happened before. Unlikely things which have happened before will eventually happen again. People often ask me why my verses rarely rhyme. I never claim to be a poet, I'm only a drummer boy. I'm only a drummer boy.
That was fun. I've rewritten that song and I'm going to make a new recording of it. Shorter. And I wish I could figure out how to use my notation writing software, because I really need to write down the notes. So far what I do is I just write down the chords and the words. So let me interrupt you for a small commercial message, and that is that I'm a working candidate and I'm a real estate broker working throughout the state of Washington. I take listings. If you are a real estate broker or you know a real estate broker, my best service to you is to bring me in as co-broker with a local broker. So you're going to sell something that can't get financing, or you want to do a lease option, or you're selling a business, list with your local guy and also make me co-broker. I've closed dozens and dozens of business deals and commercial deals. So the phone call is free. I talk to real estate agents, buyers and sellers all day long, and I'm also a commercial mortgage broker. I don't do houses. If you have money to lend and if you need to borrow, but the security has to be really solid, and there has to be title insurance. So moving on, I have posted at jamesrobertdeal.org/radio a video that I shot of myself, and the lighting was too dark. But I do take you on a tour of the garden. I always try to mention gardening, because gardening can help people to be healthier. And I do favor Medicare for all, but I think that I have several criticisms of our standard medical system, and that is that we need to include preventive doctors like naturopaths and chiropractics and Ayurvedics And massage therapists, they ought to be covered by your basic insurance. And then we ought to really educate people about diet, about the need to quit eating sugar and to eat more vegetables. And how do you cook vegetables? How do you make greens taste good? And that's something that I do in my book, What to Serve a Goddess When She Comes for Dinner. You can check out the book at whattoserveagoddess.com. So I tell the history of food, the ethics of food, and what various religions have said about food, and name some, pretty accurately, some ancient vegetarians that have whose identity as a vegetarian has sort of been lost. Like Leonardo da Vinci was a Pythagorean, and his vegetarianism was very important to him. But you read all the biographies about Leonardo da Vinci, and they hardly say a word about it. And people talk about the Pythagorean theorem, but they never say a word about Pythagoras being a vegetarian. And we talk about taking the Hippocratic Oath, and nobody says a word about Hippocrates being a Pythagorean vegetarian. And the evidence is very strong that Jesus himself was a Pythagorean Jew, and that not eating animals was very important to him. And there's several of our church fathers who explicitly say that both James and Peter and all the 12 and Jesus only ate vegetable food. So that is the pretext of the book. About 10 years ago, I decided to take off a year and write that book. And I'm glad I did. Legalize most recreational drugs. I think I already discussed that. The current system creates tax-free money. And we need to tax that business, and taxing it in proper ways might reduce the use of those drugs. And if we need more revenue to rebuild our bridges and to strengthen our electronic systems so we won't get fried when there's a solar discharge. I'm missing my word here. Now let me talk about the response to the Green Party people. They're saying, you should have come to the meeting. We held it in May, and we did send you an email, and they did send me an email, and I was busy. And I didn't go, and I should have gone and asked for endorsement, taking the proper steps. Show respect to them. So I do respect their work. Now, 2 years ago, I applied for endorsement when I was running for governor, and I went to their meeting and I played the guitar for them. I sang my campaign theme song, Do Unto Others. But I didn't present a platform paper like I have now. If you go to jamesrobertdeal.org/platform. If you want to help me win this race, send that to people everywhere. And there's also a jamesrobertdeal.org/donate. If you have a rich uncle who is miserable now because he drank fluoride all of his life, so if you have somebody who is sensitive to microwave radiation, tell her to donate. Also, pass along Twitters and Facebooks and Instagrams and try to help me publicize this campaign, because I'm trying to do it electronically. I'm not putting up billboards, no yard signs. I'm not buying any space in newspapers. And I've got some lieutenants, some assistants who are helping me gather together email addresses and do tweeting, and I'm looking for more people like that. And basically the deal I've said to them is keep track of your hours. If the money comes rolling in, then it all goes first to you, not to me. The financial benefit to me is that I can advertise my real estate business, and I'm not shy about doing that, because the profit-making aspect of my life subsidizes the nonprofit side of my life. And vice versa, it's fine if the nonprofit part of my life encourages people to come and buy my services as a broker and real estate attorney and commercial mortgage broker. The more I can make as broker, the more I can put into my pro bono work. So I'm going to wind up by talking a little bit about my motivation and why I'm running. I feel that I went to law school to become an environmental attorney and a consumer protection attorney. That was my calling to the law because I saw people who were being abused. And I wanted to be put in to have a tool with which I could do something about it. And I don't know what's going to happen at the end of this life. I don't know if I'll wake up in heaven or purgatory. I sure hope I don't wake up in a rotisserie. But on my deathbed, I think that I'll be thinking less about what St. Peter is going to say at the pearly gate and more about whether I feel proud of the way I lived. So that's why I do this pro bono work, which is alerting you to all the profitable scams that you're suckers to. Let's switch the subject just a little bit. Empty buses, mostly empty buses, rolling around mostly empty time, furiously driving to the next bus stop where nobody can get on. $130 an hour. This is utter foolishness in plain view, advertising itself. If there's an empty bus, don't use a bus. Just refer the person who needs a ride, refer him to Uber or refer him to a taxi driver. It'd be much cheaper and it would actually deliver door-to-door service. The motor companies want to keep selling cars and they want to keep selling buses. You know, buses are really profitable. The cheapest ones cost $500,000. These other ones cost $1 million. More than $1 million. Double-decker buses. Boy, they're beautiful. And they see them rolling around on the freeways. They carry a lot of people. And so I think that's great. But what we need is a better way to get them to those buses. That's why we need the vans, picking people up at their homes, providing a comprehensive service, not a fragmented service. And why are people so conventional? I write these letters to Sound Transit, and I write it to the Department of Transportation, and I send it to the governor, and I send it to Community Transit, and I send it to Metro Transit, and they sort of blow me off. Now, I did get a good letter back from Tacoma, which says they actually are experimenting with this. Well, hallelujah. Let me just give you this advice. Go to your transit people and say, here's the easiest experiment to do. It's already been proven to work in San Francisco. Uber's doing it with Uber vans. Pick people up at their front doorstep. Make the ride available by an app on cell phone or computer or pager or telephone. Pick people up at their front porch. If it's raining, if they have stuff to carry, they can throw it in the trunk. And then take them to the park and ride or take them to their ultimate destination a mile away. Give people an alternative to driving that's easier than driving. Can you honestly say that you really enjoy driving in bumper-to-bumper traffic, speed up, slow down, when it's raining and it's hard to see? No, that's not enjoyable. If you ride the van to the park and ride, and then take a fast bus to Bellevue, and then take a van to one of 20 different Bellevue zones that'll deliver you right to the place where you're going. Then when you're through with that meeting, summon a van, and the van will take you and 6 other people back to the Bellevue Park and Ride, where you'll take a fast bus to Linwood, and then you'll take a fast van back to your home. And all this time, your car's sat peacefully in the garage, burning no gasoline. And you would have had an extra hour of sleep. maybe less, maybe more. Driving puts me to sleep. Well, we're all fail to get enough sleep. Think of the increase in productivity. People could stay home, not clutter up the freeway with cars, so the people who do need to take their cars can drive at a reasonable speed and get where they're going. And so industry can move down our freeways instead of our delivery trucks getting caught in traffic, raising the price of goods in the store. It's just so much conventionality. And we're just too trusting of our leaders. We think that there's something special about them because they could get elected. You know, the talent to get elected is a different thing than the talents to know what to do once you're elected. And also there's a certain talent called the ability to detect bullshit. And most of our politicians do not have a very great ability to detect bullshit. So you're following people who don't know what they're doing, basically. They're listening to lies from the fluoride companies and putting toxic waste in your drinking water to reduce the number of tooth decays by 25 to 15%. That's the best they can claim for fluoride. What about the other 75%? And what about all the lead that comes along with the fluoride and the arsenic? Have we really tested this mixture of stew of poisonous ingredients? We put it in our water and it leaches lead from pipes. What an absurdity. How is it that people can lie for money? It's artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence doesn't presume that it's computerized entirely, because if it's a correlation of forces, it can still be self-perpetuating, like corporations. They don't die. Maybe we should have termination dates on corporations so they reconsider whether the corporation should be allowed to continue with limited liability. Bayer aspirin brought Roundup. Roundup is now unnecessary because we have little Roomba-like computers, robots that'll circulate through the field around the corn, clicking away, chipping away at the weeds. And this the little Roomba on the farm can tell the difference between a weed and corn, and chop, chop, chop. And so Roundup is obsolete. In addition to poisoning the land, killing the worms, killing the bugs, killing the birds, making farmers sick, making you sick when you eat Roundup food. This thing, in religious terms, it's a sin. It's an assault. Thou shalt not kill. These people, I don't think they're trying to wipe us out. That's one of the conspiracy theories. But I think they don't care. If they kill a lot of us, they don't care. So, this is not just one issue, folks. They're all tied together. And there's the crowd over here at fluoridealert.org, and they're fighting fluoride. And boy, they're making progress because they've got a lawsuit going. They've survived several motions to dismiss in federal court. Mr. Conant and his son have really done well. So it's my theory that there's another lawsuit that should be done, and that's why I call my website Fluoride Class Action, and that is against the suppliers of the fluoride, those who knew all along that it was poisonous. Their own NSF 60 disclosure admits that it's poisonous. So, because the level of fluoridation exceeds the limits in the NSF 60 rule. The addition of fluoride shouldn't exceed 10% of the MCL under the EPA. That's the maximum contaminant level. And the maximum contaminant level is 4.0 parts per million, which is way too high. But 10% of 4.0 parts per million is 0.4 parts per million. So we're fluoridating at 0.7 parts per million. So the state of Washington and many other states have adopted the NSF Rule 60 in toto into their laws. So fluoridation is flatly illegal in Washington at 0.7 parts per million. So if we got them to lower it to 0.4, people would wonder, well, why did we lower it? Because it's poisonous. It's slow poison. It's going to ruin your bones. By the time you die, you're going to have rickety bones. So jamesrobertdeal.org/donate. WashingtonAttorneyBroker.com. That's where you learn about the services that I offer to help buyers and sellers and brokers. I don't compete straight up with brokers. Sometimes I do take listings and work with buyers, but a lot of my work is around the state. So bring me in if you have a complex transaction. I'll give you a flat fee quote payable at closing. And I'll write the paperwork that the real estate agents are not licensed to write, the addendums that cover the complicated arrangements. So it's been fun, and I'm going to go out with a song here. Which one? Okay. This is 7 minutes and 36 seconds, and then, I don't know. Maybe I'll play another song.
Someday the Lord will come, that's what the good book has said, and he'll be punishing the wicked and rewarding the good. And most of those remaining will be wishing they was dead, condemned 'cause they failed to do unto others. They'll be making up excuses. They'll be making up excuses. They'll be making up excuses, saying we just never understood. There was a wise man down here, he was teaching his truth. Matthew wrote his words down, unfortunately they were later burned. Mark, who spoke a different language, but doing the best Mark, who never even met him, wrote again third hand. And so it ain't no surprise, and so it ain't no surprise, and so it ain't no great big surprise. He wrote it down half wrong. You sent us other prophets, you sent us messiahs and priestesses. Why, the one who came last year, she won a Nobel Prize for peace. But they all are speaking esoteric languages that most of us don't understand. They are specialists too narrow to teach the overview. And so it ain't no surprise, and so it ain't no surprise, so it ain't no great big surprise. We still don't understand. But there be some of us that's trying to do your will, and so we think we have some right to ask one question still. Lord, 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 with all due respect, Lord, Lord, if it was all so important that we understand, Lord, if it was all so important, why didn't you make it clear? And so it ain't no surprise, and so it ain't no surprise, and so it ain't no great big surprise. We still don't understand. But there be some of us that's trying to do your will, and so we would presume to make one final request. Lord, 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 with all due respect, Lord, Lord, if it is all so important that we understand, Lord, even at this late date in time, please could you make it clear? So it ain't no surprise, and so it ain't no surprise, and so it ain't no great big surprise. We're still trying to understand. James Robert Deal, February the 17th, 2017.
So I'm going to say goodnight. This is July the 15th, 2018. This is James Robert Deal. Go to jamesrobertdeal.org/platform or /radio and tweet and Facebook these snippets to your friends. Thanks a lot.